Hello and welcome back to the Metropolitan Culture Corner. This episode is sponsored by all the different throat medications and hot tea and other stuff that I am taking right now in order to make it possible to do this interview. Because at Metropolitan, that's what we do. We just work through the pain. Plus, it's totally worth it to work through the pain today because our guest this month is somebody who I've known for a very long time, and it's particularly special for me on a personal as well as a professional level to have the opportunity to share her story with you. This person is Alicia Rodríguez, publicist, poet, writer, journalist. This woman does it all. She was born in Santa Coloma, which is right adjacent to Barcelona. She's been working in the worlds of rock and roll and literature for a very long time. She began studying journalism at the Universitat Autónoma and then went on to study for her master's at Ramon Llull, at first focusing on journalism, later on film, then worked as a freelance writer and music journalist for all kinds of publications, including Popular Uno, Ruta66, MondoSonoro, basically any important music and culture magazine that you can name here in Catalonia or Spain. Later, she went on to do logistics for major festivals, organize events, do productions for concerts, but she found her true calling when she started her work as an independent publicist. And these days, she works with everybody from Rodrigo y Gabriela to Jackson Browne to Quique Veneno to Lucinda Williams to guests that we have had on the Metropolitan Culture Corner, musicians Luz Verde, everybody from baby bands to the Jayhawks and Marian Harper and Van Morrison. I myself have worked with her for years, which is how we got to know one another, and I thought you guys would find it interesting to find out what goes on behind the scenes in the world of a publicist, because the people who produce the culture, the musicians, the writers, the painters, the poets, without these people, there is no culture. But also without the behind the scenes people who get the culture out there, you guys would never hear about it. Alicia happens to have a foot in both camps. She is both a creator and someone who promotes other people's art. Can one of you tell me what a publicist does really in her day-to-day? No? Didn't think so. So we're going to go behind the scenes with Alicia Rodríguez, who will explain not only that, but also how she somehow manages to balance all this with her own personal creative projects. She is a published author. She published one book that came out in 2016 called Phoenix, a book of poetry. Now she has just finished putting together a book of short stories, which is in the editing phase and will hopefully come out later this year or early next. So please welcome Alicia Rodríguez to Metropolitan Culture Corner.
People think I prefer to work with, Van Morrison, Simple Plan, Lucinda Williams, people I have worked with, the Cat Empire, whatever. And of course, it's an honor, but normally they have built their own strategy and you don't have too much space to create anything or to suggest. So it's more boring than when you work with someone that is local or new or someone from Spain that you are starting to build a career, because it gives you, of course, much more effort, but it's nicer because you feel it's more your project and that you're making it grow, you're making it bigger, and this gives me a lot of satisfaction.
Welcome to the Metropolitan Culture Corner, and thank you for being here with us.
You're welcome, Tori. Thank you so much.
If I start at the beginning with your roots, you were born in Santa Coloma. You still live in Santa Coloma, though for a while you lived in Gracia in Barcelona. In terms of the local art, music, culture, what's the difference between Barcelona city and Santa Coloma?
Santa Coloma is a city really close to Barcelona. I mean, we were really used to take the underground for the bus when we were teenagers and wanted to see what's going on in the big city, because this is more like a kind of a suburb. But I was living in Barcelona, as you know, and I came back because I realized there is plenty of cultural life here as well, and it's also possible to build things from outside the big cities, and it's necessary, and for me it's much more interesting. We have a lot of really nice creators here, writers, poets, artists, and we have Keral Laoz, Muchachito, we have really good jazz singers, flamenco singers, DJs. We have everything here that are abroad the world, as Albert Neve, and we have a really great bunch of people who are creating art every day. I came back because of this, because I realized there's still many things I can do from here. Of course, I work for Barcelona and the whole Spain, but I do many things in my territory and I feel proud doing them.
I wanted to ask you about that because I know that you have a lot of work in Barcelona and in other cities, but Santa Coloma has a very particular, very loyal rock and roll community, and I just think that's very cool that you ended up back where you came from and that you're there working with them as well as with Barcelona, with people who come in town from other countries?
I think it's a really good place to build ideas. I think some of the best ideas sometimes they come from outside the big cities, outside New York City, outside London, outside Barcelona or Madrid.
I was going to ask you, has the scene changed since you were younger? But I would assume yes, because all cities change, right? So how have the local scene changed in Santa Coloma or in Barcelona since you were at university?
I think we have more opportunities now to create festivals or to suggest ideas or to build careers here for the bands as well. They have some public help for financing albums. We have the classical conservatory of music with a lot of talented pianists, cellists, guitarists, everything. We have much more support, but still we have the lack of places to play. That's true. It's not the same to be in Barcelona and having Pau Sant Jordi or Sala Apollo, Sidecar, and we have a lack of this kind of venues, but this is a problem I think all the small cities have, and they're trying to fix it. Some bars are starting to build some music scene, but still it's hard. We have the talent and we need to build more scene. And I know they're working on this. That's why we do some festivals to promote music and contests and trying to help live music. But still, we need to do more, of course.
Well, it's cool because you can help build up your local community, and then it's 25 minutes on the metro into the center of Barcelona when you need to work at Apollo, Razzmatazz, whatever. So it's great.
Yeah, that's the thing. And when you are tired of partying, you can always have the excuse to say, oh, I'm sorry, I need to take the underground or the bus. I need to,
So you studied journalism, and then your main career focus eventually switched to music, to PR, to working as a publicist for promoting all kinds of artists, independent bands that you mentioned, major festivals and major artists who are on tour. So what made you decide to switch from journalism to publicity?
I didn't have any other choice, because when you dream about being a journalist and you finish university, you do a doctorate, a postgraduate, everything, and then you realize, well, I still don't have the thesis finished, but I did a doctorate 2 years, and I realized this is something only rich people can do in this country because it's not professionalized. And I come from a working class family, and I started to think about what can I do related to music, but that I can make a living on it. So I decided to start working for promoters and record labels and festivals, working as a PR, production, everything, with Dr. Music, Naive, Houston Party, different kinds of labels and promoters, just to make a living. And then at the weekends, I try to do more the journalist job, and I still work like this. Many Sundays, Saturdays, I try to write some articles to remind myself that I'm still a journalist, but it's hard to make a living with the music journalism.
I think people would be so surprised to hear that. By people, I mean people who are not involved in the music industry. I think your average person would assume that if you're writing articles for Browne or Ruta66 or MondoSonoro or Rolling Stone back when it existed still in Spain, people would think your job must be easy. You just go to rock concerts, write something about it, and you must make a lot of money. But it's not like that.
No, it's not like that. We do more as a hobby, honestly. And of course, there are some people who are still making a living, but it's really, really hard. I know that maybe if I would have invested 4 or 5 years only writing, I would be making a living on that. But I didn't have that time at that time to just prepare my career as a journalist and not doing anything else. I had to bring some money at home. So I became a promoter, and I'm proud of it because it makes me be still connected with music. I still can make a living on something I like. I'm happy with this.
For those people who don't know, I mean, what does a music publicity person do? Like from step one through the very end of an album release campaign or a tour, how does that work? And also, how is it different if you're working for an emerging artist versus some of these famous people you've worked with, like Van Morrison or Gene Simmons or someone like that?
You have to consider many things. When a band contacts you, normally they want to start right now. Like, I release an album next week. Okay, wait, we need to talk because it's not as easy. You have to build a strategy, and that means a lot of work. It means to build a calendar of promo releases, singles, album releases. You need to build kind of a tale about your music, kind of a history of who you are, where do you come from, interesting things that can be attractive for the media and for the public. and it's not easy. You need to persuade the artist to wait for a while and trust on you to build this strategy, then do the press, all the press information, press kit, having good photos, having good audios, having all the materials. And once you have this, then doing the calendar, then sending the information with a newsletter, then following all this information with the media. Some people think you only need to send the information, not doing anything else. Every day, the journalists, they get tons of emails. It's impossible to open all of them. So if they open your mail, it's because they know what you are sending is something that is worth, because you are preparing this promo campaign properly. But you need to give them all the information the most attractive way, and it's not always easy. Trying to persuade them to get a review, get an article, even if it's a small info on an agenda, you need to fight for this. And then your work is not only what you get, but also telling the artist what you have been doing with the media. You cannot persuade them to everything. Sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. And I think this information gives a lot to the artists to know if they are following a good path or not. And then you have to do a kind of final clipping for them, because this is the best way for them to promote the music in the future.
This final clipping idea is so that the artist has the collection of press that they can then show off, which is kind of the final result of your work, so they can get gigs, so that they can grow their careers, so they can promote themselves. But there have to be situations where the campaign doesn't work out as well as you hoped. So what happens? What do you do? What do you tell the artist?
Firstly, I don't sleep properly because when this happens, I get anxious, because no matter how many years you are into this business, for me, all the artists I work, they deserve respect. So before I have to get someone a bad news, I feel really bad. But still, I think it's necessary to be honest and to say, hey, this is not working. And if you say it in advance, maybe we can find other ways to promote it differently, or other ways to promote your music. Or sometimes it doesn't work because they don't like the music. Normally, it's difficult that you cannot find anything. When someone tells you as a promoter, I couldn't do anything, it's really weird, because there's always something, always, even if it's a small thing, but it's uncomfortable, of course, when that happens. It's true that sometimes I have worked with artists that it didn't work the first time, but the second or the third, following some advice that I gave them, or maybe they try to change the sound, maybe it worked. But I don't want to interfere too much artistically, so I try to interfere when it comes to strategy, promo. Maybe the picture should be better, the cover next time, but you cannot really tell the artist, hey, you are not doing this properly artistically. I would change this, because I'm not a manager, I'm a PR. Maybe if I was manager as well, I could.
Is this also true with international artists that tour through? Can you plan a strategy for them in the same way that you can plan a strategy for someone who is based in Spain, or is it very different?
It's different, because normally when you work with an international band, they have their own teams abroad. So when they come to you, almost everything is ready. All the strategy. Working with international artists opened many doors, and I'm really grateful, and I hope to keep on working with them. But I still have this feeling that I need to work for my artists here, especially female artists. I try to work with female artists a lot, because I think they need to have this platform that normally is not as possible, no?
Yep, that's unfortunately true. It's funny how the world has not changed in some ways, right? But the publicist job has changed for sure with the rise of different kinds of technology, streaming and stuff. And you were talking earlier about how a journalist will receive thousands of emails and they have to know which emails to open. There's a saying in the entertainment industry that it's all about who you know, right? So how has your job changed over these past years? And also, before you had the reputation that you have now, how did you get people to open your emails? How do you start out doing what you do if you don't have those contacts already?
Well, now of course it's easier because I built my own database, but still it's not as easy because you don't have the same database for 20 years or 15 years. The people moves a lot. This music industry is really flexible, and one day you are working on a program, next month you call, oh no, this program is not broadcast anymore, and then what do I do now? Who should I call? Or this person that you trust now is not anymore, and there's someone else that you need to try to start calling him and somehow make him trust on you again because it's someone new that doesn't know you. So it's always tough because you're not working with the same people all the time. It's also true that all the technologies help to spread the messages faster, but at the same time, in the past, I used the email or the calls or fax before internet.
Mm-hmm.
And now you use WhatsApp. People send you messages on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Have you seen this? Oh, you need to reply to this. And it's like you have to be connected with tons of different screens at the same time. And the same that happens to me when I get some bands that are asking me to work with them, and I really cannot listen to everything. It's impossible. But I try to do my best to answer them. I listen to them, but it's impossible to get all the information and answer at the same time. So I guess the journalists have the same problem. They get tons of information for all different channels, so they collapse. Sometimes it's not only that they know you and they listen to you, is that they cannot really answer to everything and to everybody, even if it's someone that is well known in the music industry. You have to learn to be patient, and there's always something at the end, even in the worst moments. And I learned that as well.
But besides publicity work, which is a full-time job already, you also do all kinds of other things. The short list is event production, artist wrangling for festivals and television shows. You do a lot when it comes to music education in Santa Coloma and Barcelona. You teach music production at SAI. You put together the summer sessions of the School of Rock at Can Sistere, which is a cultural center in Santa Coloma. You work with La Ciba, which is a women's resource center in Santa Coloma too. I mean, this is already a lot. That plus promotion, it seems almost impossible that you would have time to continue to do all of this music business education and give back to the community. That's something that's obviously important to you. So why is it important to get involved in these educational initiatives and give back to your city?
Because I wish I could have had that when I was a kid. I had to learn by myself. We didn't even have internet. Now it seems that everybody can tutorials, YouTube, and so on. That stuff is okay, but having professionals talking about music industry, focusing on their own experiences and lives, I think is the best way to learn, much more than with a tutorial, which is good, and I use them a lot. But it gives me a lot of satisfaction and connects me with the students about their wishes, how the music and taste is changing. I'm always interested because you always have to learn things, I guess, in all the careers. But music business, everything goes so fast. You cannot get stuck behind. I have my own preferences in music, my styles, rock and soul and pop, but I learn with my students. I think it's also important for them to have a context, because when they study only learning on internet or whatever, and they don't have a teacher, all the information in a background about what music history is, why are we at this very moment with these kind of circumstances. I think this is important for them to know, to appreciate what they're doing and what does it mean to be a songwriter or a producer or whatever. It's not something that you learn with only a book.
Right. And then besides the full-time publicist job, besides all this educational stuff and this logistical stuff, you're also a published writer. As I mentioned before, you kind of see both sides of things, being both someone who creates art and promotes art. Your first book of poetry, Phoenix, came out in 2016, and now you're finishing your first book of short stories, which will hopefully be released later this year or early next year.
Yeah.
So how do you have time for that? And are you just as comfortable writing your own stories and poetry as writing an article about a punk band?
I think I need to do this because I'm involved in creativity the whole day, talking with artists, and at the end you feel like you need to get all these inputs and build something for yourself as well. I think everybody that works in music business, even if you are not an artist, you have some kind of artistic soul. Otherwise it's impossible to understand the artist. I think I did because I really need it, and when you need to do something, you try to get some time for it, even if it's at 12 midnight that you're writing there, one eye open, the other closed. And what I learned is that you need to be sober and really concentrated, because when you do an article, I have been writing articles for a long time. I'm not gonna say that it's not a big effort, but you have kind of a scheme of what you want to do, and you focus on that 2-3 hours, that's it. But when you are building a book, you need to be connected with art all the time, as when you record an album and you are in the creative process. Now I'm in the phase of editing, so more or less all the stories are done, but I was all the time like, oh, I need to write a new tale for the book. And I was listening all the conversations in the bus, people conversations in the underground, like trying to inspire of everything, and it's never ending.
So you're inspired by everything around you?
Yeah, I think I'm inspired by everything, but then I build my own world, because what I normally write is more aspects of real life, everyday life, but with some kind of fantasy and horror, because horror and fantasy helps to explain many things that happens in this world, and some kind of sarcasm as well, and humor. I think it's the best combination, because life is humor, sarcasm, and horror many times.
I think I'm gonna like this book. Well, thank you so much. Thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for this opportunity. And well, if someone wants to find out a little bit more, they can check my website or my social media.
You don't mind if people write to you and say hi?
No, of course.
You know, somebody might watch this and think, I'd like to work with her, but she's not going to want to hear from me. I'm not famous. But no, you
everybody is welcome. If I see that I connect with that person, not only musically and creativity, then they are welcome. And if they're nice people.
Yeah, important. Thank you so much, Alicia, for sharing your time with us. I always thank our guests at the end of these interviews, because these are busy people, creative people working really hard both on their art and on their commerce. It's not easy to combine the two, and Alicia does it better than most. So thank you very much, Alicia Rodríguez, for sharing your time with us. And thank you very much to all of you, as always, for tuning in to support local art and culture. Be sure to check out all of our interviews over the past 4 years. Can you believe it? They're all on Barcelona Metropolitan's official YouTube channel. There's a playlist called Metropolitan Culture Corner. It's super easy. Or you can listen to all of our interviews as convenient podcasts on SoundCloud.